Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities such as new companies and potential business partners and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samniego here, along with Kobe Lamons from the Podium Finish and Adam Lemeries. We got NASCAR, IndyCar, and we'll start with Formula One. But before we get into Formula One, a big thank you to our Patreon subscribers calling the show, Mark and Robin, for keeping us on the air and helping this past race weekend at Portland International Raceway possible. Their contribution each and every month, greatly appreciated. You too could be part of our Patreon or buy me a coffee. A one-time contribution to the Grid Network helps keep us stay on the air. And a big special welcome to everyone watching on LinkedIn. First time we're streaming on LinkedIn as well. So we encourage everyone to visit the Grid Network LinkedIn page. And starting with Formula One, what a thrilling qualifying session at Baku, a track we compare to Talladega because of the scale of unpredictability here. However, again, Charles Leclerc, he took the pole. Perez, he's second place. Verstappen is behind in third, and then Sainz. So the top four, that's pretty predictable. Leclerc on pole, he is the first repeat pole winner in Baku. But Perez, he's the only driver in the top six to have won this race. Nobody else has. So I got to ask you all, when it comes to Perez, he's been faster than Verstappen most of the weekend. Verstappen, he is starting in third, so he's going to be behind Leclerc. Sainz is going to be behind Perez, who's on the front row. And Perez, he's never won two in a row. He could potentially do that, especially if he gets a good, clean start. He'll be in the inside of that first corner. Is Perez a real contender for the win, or is this still Verstappen's team?
Well, Joe, overall, I still think it's Max Verstappen's team. I still believe he's going to be the number one driver at Red Bull for the foreseeable future, unless we get another young hotshot who's going to come up there and take his place. Yeah, while I think this is still Max Verstappen's team, I think Sergio Perez is a true contender for the win this weekend. He's really shown some impressive pace and been able to put together that impressive qualifying performance over Max. You know, that was a super impressive. Remember, Sergio Perez won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix last year, and this is a track he's really good at. And I think this could be a weekend where Sergio Perez could potentially go back to back after winning the Monaco Grand Prix.
You make some really good points, Kobe. Actually, someone here at Grid Network is picking Checo Perez to win tomorrow. So to find out, stay tuned to our pick winner segment at the end of the show. But Checo has a really strong chance to go back to back here at Azerbaijan. He's ahead of he outqualified the defending F1 world champion. And that's impressive. He signed a new 2-year contract with, to stay at Red Bull. I think, I think that's saying something. I think signing that new extension has given him a lot of confidence going forward for the rest of the season. Checo Perez could be a contender you got to watch out for the championship.
50 points between the top three. Definitely he's a contender for the championship. It's just going to be really interesting to see how Max Verstappen, I think, approaches this race. If Charles Leclerc has that great start, try to follow him, get up to second place. If Sergio Perez has that better start, he's going to have to try to somehow duck behind him and beat Sainz. This is going to be a really interesting moment, I think, for Max Verstappen. He could have easily won this race last year had he not seen the tire blown on the main straight with a handful of laps to go. If he could win this race, Verstappen, I think he could really solidify this as his team. However, Perez, we know Spanish Grand Prix, he was disappointed. He told the team that. When it comes to Monaco, it is just about Perez up ahead all the time, and the way with Sainz in between, there was no way team orders could have come in play. So overall, this is going to be a great opportunity, I think, for Sergio Perez to try to make it clear, hey, he's an equal on this team. This is not the Max Verstappen team. This is the Red Bull team. You have two drivers capable of going out there and capable of winning not only the race, but the championship. But Baku has had 5 different winners. 5 drivers get fastest lap each year. Leclerc, as I mentioned, he is the first repeat pole winner. That long straightaway towards the start-finish line, we see DRS. That's going to be a huge passing opportunity if you come out of that final corner and you're within a second of the car ahead of you. But of course, DRS, assuming dry conditions, is not available till that third lap. We've seen in the past, Leclerc, Verstappen, they try to get that 1 second gap to prevent DRS. Kobe, do you see that being potentially the case? Or do you think we could potentially see a 4-way battle with DRS lap after lap?
Well, based on what we've seen this weekend in qualifying, I'm hopeful we're going to be able to see a 4-way battle for the win this weekend between the 2 Ferraris, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and then the 2 Red Bulls, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. But then with Baku, as you mentioned, Joe, in the intro, but this is a track we call the Talladega, the Formula One schedule, because it's so unpredictable and anything can really happen. At Baku, we very well may end up with a surprise winner, and that's who's not driving for a Red Bull or for a Ferrari. But overall, if I had to make a prediction, I'd say I'd like to see a 4-way battle between the 2 Red Bulls and the Ferraris. But to be honest, we really don't know what's going to happen at Baku because this track, it's so demanding, it's intimidating, especially going through that little section where the castle is. This is really crazy and little room for error.
Little room for error. We saw quite a few errors in qualifying, mainly Lance Stroll. First time, put it in the wall, just front wing damage, but then the second time, damaged that right front suspension. Looked like that crew is going to be working hard all night. However, for his teammate, Vettel, much positive qualifying compared to him. He is in the top 10. One of the teams, of course, we're always following the top 10, but not contending for the win. Mercedes, they're still in the hunt, though. You got Russell in 5th place. Gasly, he's in 6th place in that AlphaTauri. Lewis Hamilton in 7th, but he's under investigation because he did slow down the track. This unfortunately impacted Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo. Potentially a grid penalty might be coming there. Tsunoda, Vettel, and Alonso are the remaining top 10 starters. And we know we've had surprise winners and podium finishers. Of course, Lance Stroll, he got his first podium at Baku. So any of these drivers really could be in contention for a podium. And if it gets too crazy up front, if you see the top 4 get crashed out or something, potential win. Like Pierre Gasly getting his win over in Monza a couple seasons ago. So there's a lot that could happen at this track. However, for McLaren, despite being the best of the rest when it came to a couple of practice sessions, they were 11th and 12th. Disappointment. And for Daniel Ricciardo, he is on a streak he doesn't want to be talking about. 4 straight races, no points. In fact, the only race this year he has scored points, Australia. Every other race, no points. And of course, that one race in the beginning of the season, a retirement, it has not been a good season for him. So, Adam, starting with you, does McLaren still have a shot at a podium? Or is this really everyone else in the top 10 in contention in case we see some craziness up front?
Oh, I think we'll see some craziness up front. That long straightaway, leading into turn one, you could see some craziness at the start, and I think tomorrow is going to be really crazy race. There's so many tight corners here at Baku. We have one of the slowest corners, tightest corners on the entire F1 schedule this year. I think to me, anyone inside the top 10 has a really good shot to win tomorrow. I would, you mentioned Pierre Gasly's up there. He hasn't won for a couple of years. George Russell is starting fifth. He's been strong lately. He could get his first career F1 victory tomorrow. So to me, anyone inside the top 10 has a good shot to take the win here in Azerbaijan.
Well, Adam, when we're talking about McLaren, I really don't think they have a shot at scoring a podium this weekend. The pace just hasn't been there at all this weekend. But looking at one driver that's been in the headlines the last couple of weeks, Daniel Ricciardo, he's going to need to make sure that he's able to be up there with Lando Norris, and we know with Baku anything can happen, and there's potential for a crash. The last thing Daniel Ricciardo needs to do is to retire from the race because of a crash. If he does retire from the race, he better hope it's a mechanical issue well out of his control or get caught up in someone else's mess, because Daniel Ricciardo is going to be under a significant amount of pressure right now. It seems like obviously Lando Norris's future with McLaren is secure right now, but one driver whose future is not secure at the moment is Daniel Ricciardo. He needs to make sure he's right up there with Lando wherever they finish in the race, and make sure he can match him the best he can, because McLaren has a lot of other drivers. Looking in the wings right now, if we look at the IndyCar series, you look at a Paddle Award who signed with McLaren for the foreseeable future, someone who could potentially get a seat. They also have Colton Herta, another IndyCar driver who's currently a McLaren reserve driver. So Colton Herta could potentially be in the frame for a future McLaren F1 seat, and also look at the Alpine young driver Oscar Piastri, the 2021 FIA Formula 2 champion. Oscar Piastri could potentially be someone who could get a seat at McLaren as well. So Daniel Ricciardo needs to go out there and show the same form he showed last year at Monza when he won the Italian Grand Prix. And Ricciardo is certainly going to have all eyes on him inside the McLaren camp this weekend in Baku, Azerbaijan.
Yeah, all eyes on Daniel Ricciardo this race weekend. And I think for a lot of drivers, especially Pierre Gasly, his future unsure. If he could come here, get a podium, maybe a crazy victory like he did in Monza, he could really get people interested in where he goes the next year. So a lot of potential for him. The top 10, Vettel, he could use a good podium, a good strong finish. Alonso, he wants another one. And then it's crazy to say that Lewis Hamilton has gone so long without getting a podium. He would have loved to have another podium this season, just try to get something positive going in his direction. And of course, the Baku City Circuit. Last year, he could have easily gotten this race win after that red flag, but he left the brake magic on and went straight off on that first corner on the start. And this race, the surprises it seems, I think this is going to be the most unpredictable race of the race weekend to predict the winner. But the last event in Monaco, we saw some surprises. Perez getting that win, Ferrari, the strategy allowing that to occur. And of course, you got that old street circuit and now this new circuit of Baku the following race weekend. And Baku is going to host F1 up till 2024 at least, potentially more. Monaco, their future, it's uncertain. We know that. Now, Baku, especially with the races being very unpredictable, almost a must-watch event because of unpredictable nature, it has really become sort of a fan favorite. It has won Race of the Year a couple of times as well. Adam, with rumors of tracks being dropped as Formula One expands their season, is Baku an early favorite to stay on the calendar permanently for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it gives the country Azerbaijan, over in Asia, it, you know, it shows the country on worldwide television because we don't normally hear any news, you know, regarding Azerbaijan, even in the sports world, except when Formula One comes here. I could see Baku on the F1 calendar after 2024. I mean, it, it's good exposure for the country. I'm assuming it brings in a lot of money for the country. You know, uh, regarding tourism, um, it has one of the longest races on the F1 calendar. So, if it's a fan's favorite, I don't see why it would be dropped from the schedule. I think Baku will remain on the F1 calendar until after 2024. Uh, it's a really nice circuit.
It is a modern day street circuit. I feel if this race really delivers again, as we've seen Baku deliver each and every year, yes, that first race at Baku was a little bit of a snooze fest, but then every year afterwards, it's just been crazier and crazier. It's becoming a fan favorite. This is a race where a lot of fans are saying this is a must not miss event. If it could keep that, it's easily going to allow it where Formula One will say, hey, this is a race a lot of fans circle. This is a race you cannot miss. We got to keep working, make a new deal beyond 2024. But of course, that just means for the other tracks, especially if you're a track that like Monaco or even Spa, where a lot of people, they'll circle Spa, the Belgium Grand Prix, as a race you cannot miss. Last year did not help it. You got to be a little bit concerned. It's like, okay, you got now this Baku City Circuit track. Everything, as you said, Adam, the exposure for the country. It's in the capital city. Accessibility is much easier. They're putting on race after race that's really good, really exciting. This is something where I think for other tracks, it might be a bit of concern because this is your competition. But if the fans are enjoying it, if everyone's working well together behind the scenes, this could be a track that's on the calendar for a long time to come. And of course, the race, it's up early. 4 a.m. Pacific start time, 7 a.m. Eastern time for Formula One. Critical start, that will set up essentially the strategies for both Ferrari and Red Bull, depending on who comes out ahead at the exit that first corner. And of course, we're going to recap it all on Grid Live Wrap Up, but we're now going to a track that NASCAR has been going to for quite a long time, especially when it comes to road courses, Sonoma.
Yeah, the NASCAR Cup Series visits Sonoma Raceway this weekend, also known as Wine Country, about an hour from the Bay Area, San Francisco, and Oakland. Joey Logano is trying to make it 2 in a row after winning at Gateway last Sunday in a really chaotic race, but many are going to be looking at the Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets because, of course, it's a road course. Kyle Larson won this race last year, and Chase Elliott is also really good on the road course in the road course races. But one driver also good here is Martin Truex Jr., who still doesn't have any plans for 2023 and beyond yet. His old crew chief Cole Pern is back with him this weekend as an engineer. This year, Truex only has 2 top 5s, 7 top 10s, and still 5th in the overall point standing, but he's 10th on the playoff grid without a win so far this year. And Truex has won at Sonoma 3 times in 2013, 2018, 2019, but he didn't have a chance to make it 3 in a row because we didn't race here in 2020 because the race got canceled due to the pandemic. Is this the best opportunity for Truex to take a win?
Yes, I do believe so, Kobe. You mentioned he has Cole Pern back. Um, and that's saying something. And also you mentioned Martin Truex Jr. has won here 3 times. And we don't know what his future holds in NASCAR. So I could say Martin Truex Jr. is a contender for tomorrow. But also, like you mentioned, those Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets are really good here on the road course. Kyle Larson is from California. So you could sort of see it's his home track. And so, but I think Martin Truex Jr. does have a really good shot to win tomorrow at Sonoma. And I still want to call it Sears Point since that's what everyone else remembers this track as, including myself.
For Martin Truex Jr. to win at Sonoma, he's going to have a good, perfect weekend. And already is looking good on paper. You have Cole Pearn, very successful with him as a crew chief. They won a championship together. You're going to have a good qualifying session. You got to start up front. You're up front. You don't have to worry about trying to get into the top 10. Even if you're starting 10th, well, that means you have to pass 9 vehicles to get a stage point, but you could really set yourself up for the win compared to if you're mired in the back of the pack. You got to make sure you avoid all the trouble. Martin Truex Jr., he could have won Las Vegas easily and just seems he's been quietly, consistently there. 5th place in the points, that don't happen if you're struggling. That happens by being consistent. He's been doing that, so I don't see why he can't go out there and win this race weekend. He could easily do that. He has Cole Pearn. Usually when we talk about a substitute in the pits, it's usually a disadvantage, but he has Cole Pearn. I feel that could be an advantage. He could get that win this weekend, get everything all going again, be that consistent force. He could be a contender in the playoffs, and I would not be surprised if you see Martin Truex Jr. in the championship 4 at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I also wouldn't be surprised to see Martin Truex Jr. in victory lane this weekend for the 4th time at Sonoma Raceway. Having Cole Pearn back, I think that's going to be a huge boost of momentum for the team. Of course, he's still going to have James Small, his crew chief, now on the box with him, but having that familiar voice, Cole Pearn, this championship-winning crew chief, back with the team, I think that's going to be huge, like a huge shot in the arm for the number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota Camry. But at the same time, I think one of Truex's other potential contenders for the win could be the driver of the number 16 color racing Chevrolet, and that is AJ Allmendinger, who's always competitive when we come to these road courses. And if you remember in the first road course race of the season, AJ Allmendinger was just a couple of turns away from winning that Circuit of the Americas until Ross Chastain knocked him out of the way to get his first career NASCAR Cup Series victory. So I think if we're looking at early favorites to potentially win at Sonoma this weekend, look no further than Martin Truex Jr. and AJ Allmendinger. And this year, that we're going back to the layout that we used for so many years at Sonoma with the short chute, and the carousel is gone after that experiment. Didn't really improve the on-track product. Qualifying is going to be very important this weekend. And speaking about the on-track product, a lot of people are hoping that a next-gen car is going to put on quite a show at Sonoma, because traditionally Sonoma hasn't really produced the most exciting road course racing that we've seen at the other road courses on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. So, Joe, if you qualify poorly, do you think they'll forego stage points and try to position yourself for the race win? And I know in the stage era, strategy at road courses has really gone out the window, to be honest.
You are correct. Strategy has really gone out the window. Before I get more into my answer, a comment in this chat room. I really hope Alpine race pace tomorrow will be much better than today's qualifying pace. This just was based on my opinion. Alpine, Ocon didn't really show anything, but Alonso in the top 10, especially if we have a crazy race, which leads up to your second question. How many DNF do you guys reckon? I'll let Adam answer this question when he gets to his answer later on, and then Kobe, you could answer that as well. But I would say I'm looking at about 4 to 5 vehicles, so you're only going to have between 15 to 16 ending the race tomorrow. Now, the poor qualifying situation in Sonoma, it used to be something where you could use strategy to make a 2-stop race and put yourself in contention for the win. The best example of that, Terry Labonte for Hall of Fame Racing. He almost pulled off a huge upset by just staying out there, but it was the old worn tires that really came in to his demise of winning that race. Tires, they're going to go through quite a bit. This is a rough, abrasive pavement. Hasn't been repaved for quite some time. With the stages, if there's one thing you can do, because the stages are going to be very short compared to other races, you could always try to pit right before the pit road closes, and then everyone pits during the stage break, pick up positions. But this is also very much a tricky situation because, yes, you could pit. You don't have to worry about going a lap down. If everyone makes a pit stop during that stage break, you'll be up front. But again, the abrasive tires, 2-3 laps under green, That's going to do quite a bit on those tires. It is something where tire management is going to be key for winning this race. I see where qualifying, that is your best friend if you're up front. Maintain that position, stay up front. However, if you're towards the back, you're going to have to look at tire management. Take care of those tires. You're going to have to go off cycle, do a pit stop early in the stage, try to pick up positions between the stages. You could really set yourself up for that way, but you really are boxed in with these stages in the road course. It's very tricky. It's all going to come down to qualifying.
And not just tire management, Joe. I'm sure the teams hope that the tires are going to actually stay up because so far during the story of the first half of the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season, it's been tires, tires, tires because the Goodyear's tires just won't stay up. We keep having tire blowouts ruining drivers' races, and I'm really glad we've made progress in terms of when a driver spins out, they don't always need to have a tow back to the pits. I remember during the first few races that was a common story, and we've been seeing a lot less of that. So give NASCAR kudos for figuring out that problem, but still, it's a major problem that these Goodyear tires aren't staying up. So I think that's something else we're gonna have to look out for, not necessarily just tire management, but hoping that the tires aren't going to go down. And to answer the question from the chat room, I see potentially 6 cars retiring from the race with 14 finishers, but who knows what's gonna happen at Baku. You had a question right there on the screen that I just answered. And getting back to NASCAR, the playoff picture is starting to take shape as we're halfway through the regular season. Eric Almirola is 16th, only 8 points above the cut line. Tyler Reddick 2 above. Harvick 2 below. Eric Jones 26 below. Austin Dillon 29 points below. And Daniel Suarez 60 points below the cut line. And drivers that are even further back: Bubba Wallace, Harrison Burton, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Brad Keselowski, who's 30th in points. I think Brad really might be in a must-win situation there because he's going to run out of time to try to get into the top 16, and he would need a lot of drivers ahead of him to have a whole lot of issues, and he'd need to have so many great races. So, in your opinion, which drivers are in a for real must-win situation starting this weekend?
When it comes for a real must-win situation, Brad Keselowski, 30th in points. Since that penalty he got, the season has not really gone his way. Races where he thought he could be a contender hasn't gone his way. Talladega did not go well for him. He's in a must-win situation. I will also say Ricky Stenhouse and Harrison Burton are 2 drivers in must-win situations. They just need to have one race where everything falls their way and they can steal a win. Harrison Burton, he's a rookie pains. It just seems he puts himself in a bad spot where when there's a crash occurring, he gets involved in it. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's had some good runs in that 47 car. He just always seems to come a little bit short or get caught up in trouble. He could put himself in a situation to grab a win. He's then in the playoffs. Bubba Wallace, I don't think he's in a must-win situation just yet. I feel 23-11, especially the last couple of weekends, they're starting to turn things around. Start getting those top 10 finishes week in and week out. If you could get stage points, even better. But definitely just stay out of trouble, get those finishes. I think he could point himself in there, especially if you see drivers like Almirola, Reddick, Harvick have bad luck, get themselves in trouble. So right now, Stenhouse, Burton, and Keselowski are the 3 drivers I feel are really in a must-win situation. And, of course, anyone else behind as well.
One driver that I'm going to look at is Daniel Suarez. You look at his, Daniel Suarez is probably saying to himself, man, I sure would like to be where Ross Chastain is, having a few wins already so far this year. And Suarez has come close on a number of occasions. Unfortunately, the brakes haven't gone his way. Another driver has to be Kevin Harvick. Surprisingly, he's 2 points below the cut line. Just one race win, and he's up there. Even if it's a top 5 or top 10, he could easily get up there, and be in the playoffs. And another driver that I'll look at, I'll say Eric Almirola. It's his last full season in the NASCAR Cup Series. before he retires to spend time with his family. We all know he last won at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire. So he wants he wants to be in the playoffs, for the last time as well. So I'll say Daniel Suarez, Kevin Harvick, and Eric Almirola. Getting back to the F1 question, I think there will be at least 5 DNFs tomorrow in the F1 race at Baku.
And I actually disagree with Joe on Bubba Wallace. I actually think that 2311 team is going to be in a must-win situation because I haven't seen the week-to-week consistency and ability to complete the pit stops in a timely manner or just stay out of trouble. It seems like 2311 Racing's cars are significantly better than what they were during the first several races, and they really seem to unlock a lot of speed in the cars. But I think the question for Bubba Wallace is can he put together a complete race? And I feel like that's something that he's really struggled with so far throughout his entire NASCAR Cup Series career. I think at Kansas and then the Coca-Cola 600, if Bubba Wallace was able to stay out of trouble and not have issues on pit road, I very well think Bubba could have finished inside the top five and top 10 in those races. So I think unless Bubba Wallace can put together complete races and show this type of speed on a more consistent basis, then I think he's definitely going to be in a must-win situation. And you brought up great points about Harrison Burton. We know being a rookie, it can be really tough in the NASCAR Cup Series, and Harrison Burton is finding that out big time right now. And I think Harrison is certainly going to need a little time to get adjusted to the Cup Series and find his footing. But I think once Harrison Burton is able to get some more Cup experience on his belt, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. And then, as I mentioned, Brad Keselowski, 30th in points. He's definitely in a must-win situation. I think 2 races right now have to be circled on his calendar. Atlanta Motor Speedway coming up, I believe, next month, and then the final race of the regular season at Daytona International Speedway. As we know, Atlanta, since that track has higher bank now in the corners. Atlanta races just like Daytona and Talladega, and Brad Keselowski has always been a good super speed race. And then obviously Daytona, Brad Keselowski is good there. I think those are really the only 2 realistic opportunities right now for Brad Keselowski to get a win. I think he's absolutely in a must-win situation because I do not see him getting into the top 16 in points. And the way things are going right now, we very well could end up with 16 race winners or possibly more because that board in the playoffs is really getting filled up. I even saw comments from Austin Cindric this weekend. People wondering if Austin Cindric's starting to get worried because he's at the very bottom of all the different race winners we've seen so far this year. So maybe Austin Cindric, we know he's good at road courses. He could potentially be a contender to win this weekend. Try to get a win on one of these road courses we have remaining in the regular season. Try to get a second win because right now, if you're saying you're at the bottom of all the one-time race winners this season, you have to start to get a little nervous as we get new race winners. And however, the race this weekend at Sonoma has evolved since the first run and after Riverside closed. Currently, NASCAR has a 3-race West Coast swing at Fontana, Las Vegas, and Phoenix, which doesn't include Sonoma. However, many of the shared photos of Sonoma earlier this year and in years past have showed the bright green grass. However, usually more rain during the rainy season, but NASCAR is certainly capable of racing the rain. They've done it. They did it last weekend at Portland National Raceway. If you followed all of our coverage, had the rain tires and the windshield wipers. So here's my question, Adam: should NASCAR consider moving Sonoma to the West Coast swing? Give us an early season road course event.
No, I kind of like it where it is. If you look back at NASCAR schedules in the past, Sonoma's has always been in the month of June. It's it's one of the best road courses in the entire United States, and I kind of miss Riverside International Raceway. And if our viewers want, you can go to YouTube, and I believe that the last ever race from Riverside International Raceway is on there. Sonoma is a really great track to. So I think I think it should stay where it is on the NASCAR calendar.
Yeah, you think it should stay, and honestly, I would like to see some of the road courses start to rotate around. Maybe have Sonoma one year, and then next year go to a different road course, because there's a lot of great road courses all over the country that I feel like that NASCAR should potentially race at. And I know for so many years we had just Sonoma and Watkins Glen on the NASCAR Cup Series calendar. Then fans really started to get more into road course racing. Then NASCAR added a lot of road courses to the calendar, and then fans like NASCAR, that's a little too much. You added too many road courses to the calendar. In my personal opinion, I think the number right now is just perfect for the number of road courses, since I've really enjoyed the road course events. Maybe if they added a little more, it might be a little too much, but overall, I think I'd like to see Sonoma be on the schedule one year and drop off the other for another road course event, or it could, like you said, Adam, could very well stay where it is, and maybe NASCAR will experiment and go bold, as some of the executives have been saying, with the schedule, and move Sonoma part of the West Coast swing. It would certainly be a different vibe to this racetrack if they're able, if they were to move it and race earlier in the year. Next, moving on to the NTT IndyCar Series, who are going to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, to compete at one of North America's most iconic and intimidating road courses, Road America. The 4 mile road course comes after Will Power came from Big Pat to win at Belle Isle last week, and the third consecutive weekend of IndyCar racing after the Indy 500 took place at the end of May. One driver carrying a lot of momentum to this weekend is Alexander Rossi, who was fastest in the Friday practice session and fourth quickest in the second practice this morning. Last weekend, Rossi finished second at Belle Isle and could have beat Power if he had just one more lap. Road America is the site of his last IndyCar win just 3 years ago. Is this the place where Rossi returns to victory lane this weekend?
He has a really good shot at returning to victory lane. This is one of his tracks he really excels at. He needs to have a good race weekend because the Penske's, they're going to be strong. They're going to be hard to beat here. As well as Chip Ganassi. They have drivers that have won here before. Alex Palou knows how to win here. Scott Dixon knows how to win here. And don't count out McLaren as well. Pato O'Ward, he could win here. Felix Rosenquist, he has won here as well too. So easily, he has a big field of contenders to try to go out there and get a win. And of course, within his own team, Andretti Autosports, Colton Herta has potential to win. Roman Grosjean, this is a road course a lot of folks compare to something you'll see in Europe. I think this is going to be a good track for him as well this weekend. So Rossi, he can get the win. He has a lot of competition to go out there and beat. So I wouldn't exactly call him a favorite, especially it seems sometimes when we anticipate he comes out strong, seems to fall a little flat. He cannot do that. He has to come out strong, go out there, get a good qualifying position, and be up front.
Stay tuned for pick a winner at the end of the show. I'll just give you a little heads up about who I think is going to win at Road America. But anyway, I think Alexander Rossi has a really good shot to win here this weekend at Road America. He came so close last time out at Belle Isle Park in Detroit. We all know he's leaving Andretti Autosport to go to Arrow McLaren SP next year. He wants to leave Andretti Autosport on a high. To me, like you mentioned, Joe, Chip Ganassi Racing is strong here. Penske is strong here. McLaren, I believe Pato O'Ward was fastest in second practice. That should indicate that he could be a contender for the win. But I think after signing that contract with Arrow McLaren SB, Alexander Rossi right now, he is definitely a strong contender for the win here at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
Well, Adam, I really think you really gave out some hints on who your pick a winner is going to be for the IndyCar race. I think we all have a strong feeling who you're going with, and maybe who I'm going with as well. But I think this is certainly a track where Alexander Rossi can get the job done and return to victory lane for the first time in 3 years. Hard to believe it's been 3 years since Alexander Rossi's been able to take the checkered flag in an IndyCar race. Started off really strong this weekend, as I mentioned, fastest as an opening practice, and then it's in the top five in the second practice that ended earlier this morning. And Rossi's just carrying a lot of momentum. He looked like the Rossi of old towards the end of that Indianapolis 500. Unfortunately, just ran out of time to try to go any further than fifth at Indy, and then Belle Isle didn't have the qualifying effort that he won after looking strong in practice, and and then stormed through the field, and he very well could have caught Will Power if there were maybe just one or two more laps. And I think Rossi said himself it would have been interesting if we had one more lap. And like Joe was saying, and looking back at Rossi's qualifying effort last week at Belle Isle, Rossi looked to be one of the strongest at Belle Isle. Didn't have a good qualifying, and we have qualifying coming up for the IndyCar race later today. Rossi looks strong in practice again, but qualifying is going to be super important to see if Rossi could truly be a contender for the win at Road America. And one driver we probably expected to be doing a lot better right now, Joe mentioned him, Roman Grosjean. The last three races haven't been too kind to the Frenchman. Got caught out on slicks at a wet track at the IMS road course. That resulted in a poor finish. He crashed out of the Indy 500, and he had no speed at all last weekend at Belle Isle, and he had a big crash as well. Grosjean performed well at Road America last year. He got a top five and showed good speed. Is this the race that Grosjean starts to turn things around after his recent performances have failed to deliver?
Yes, I do believe Roman Grosjean will be strong this weekend at Road America. You mentioned Kobe. He got a top five finish here last year. So to me, Roman Grosjean is one driver that you cannot count out to get at least a top five finish at Road America tomorrow. And one thing that I do want to mention is strategy. It's a 4 mile road course, one of the longest on the IndyCar calendar. So if you want to win here, you're going to have strategy, especially when it comes to being on pit road. I think if you come into the pits and either lap 14, 15, or 16, it could be either a two-stop strategy or even a potentially three-stop strategy to get you home for the win. Because if you run out of fuel here at Road America, it's a long, long way back to pit road. So when you're watching the race, see which cars are using a two-stop strategy and also a three-stop strategy to bring them home to the finish.
You bring up a really great point with strategy. That's going to be a big one, especially if we don't have any full course cautions. Traditionally, we see sometimes full course cautions in that first opening lap. Generally, it could mellow out the race. So strategy will be a big thing to watch. For Roman Grosjean, he could easily be one of the favorites to win this weekend. I feel like I've been saying this quite a bit, probably because I said a bit about Rossi. He needs to have a good, perfect race weekend. The competition for this track is going to be really tough. He could easily put himself on the pole in the first couple rows, put himself in a good starting position. So qualifying is going to be very important for that DHL 2018. If they're towards the back, that's where they're going to utilize strategy to try to get towards the front. But again, they're going to be at the mercy of if a caution comes out, does that benefit them? Does that ruin their race? You got to watch out for trouble as well, trying to make an aggressive pass, get collected in an incident. You can't afford to do that. The big thing to control his destiny, go out there and qualify, have a good qualifying lap, put yourself towards the front, and you could really put yourself in a really great spot to claim your first NTT IndyCar Series win.
Yes, and it seems like we've been waiting for a while for Roman Grosjean to break through and get that first win on weekends where we think he can really get that first win. It seems like something just goes wrong at some point in the race where he's unable to break through. But as you mentioned, since this is a European style circuit that he was used to when he was racing over in Formula One and coming up on the road to F1, I think Road America really suits Roman Grosjean's driving style, and he's been quick this weekend. So this could really be a track for him to turn things around and start to build some positive momentum as we get deeper into the summer months in the IndyCar series. And I really expected Grosjean to be a lot better in the points, or well, a lot higher up in the points right now. But the thing that really killed him in the point standings was crashing out of the Indy 500. And Indy 500 is a double points event, so if you want to be in the thick of the championship and you have a bad Indy 500 and crash out, that's probably going to sink your championship hopes. So I don't think the championship is going to be on Roman Grosjean's mind at this point of the season, but he can certainly still go out there, be competitive, finish in the top 10 in the points. And I think after the MS Road Course, the Indy 500 and Bell Out didn't go well for him, I think he can really do some great things in the next several races, and it's starting this weekend at Road America and Simona Di Silvestre and Peretta Autosport returned for the first of three scheduled IndyCar races this year. Road America being the first, then Mid Ohio and Nashville. Could be more races if they find the funding. Di Silvestre is making her first road course start since 2015 when she finished fourth at New Orleans Motorsports Park. That was a really wet day, as I remember. However, coming into Road America without any testing, she's been at the bottom of the speed charts trying to get back into the swing of things, and Road America is quite a challenging and demanding 4-mile road course. What are some reasonable expectations for Simona Di Silvestre and Peretta Autosport this weekend?
The big thing, log the laps, don't have any incidents, just gain the experience and the seat time in the car. That's a big thing because when it comes to this race, weather doesn't look like it's going to be an issue at all at Road America this weekend, at least for the race day. When it comes to logging those laps, that's the best way under race conditions to gain the experience, especially with this new team, new car, get everything just readjusted for that way the upcoming races, you'll be better prepared, and then you can set your goals higher. The biggest thing you don't want to do is go out early in the race. You especially don't want to get caught up in a first lap crash. Hopefully you don't have anything mechanical that ends your day. Just run some good laps, try to improve lap after lap, get faster and faster, and allow the team to get practice together, making those pit stops, making the strategy calls. Because here, if we have a race where we do have some DNFs, you can pick up positions that way. When you're in the bottom of the speed charts, it looks like it's going to be a long weekend, but this is the perfect opportunity to learn from that long weekend, gain the experience needed for the following races.
I'll completely agree with that. I'll completely agree with everything you said, Joe. It's nice to see Simona Di Silvestre back at IndyCar this weekend, and to me, just log laps. If you can come away with at least a top 20 finish here at Road America, it gives you confidence saying, hey, I logged as many laps as I could. We did have 2 practice sessions, so it gave her and the team some laps on the track. Qualifying takes place a little later this afternoon, and then you have the race. So if Simona Di Silvestre and Brett Autosport can log laps, have at least a top 20 finish, don't get caught up on any incidents. And we have a comment from Michael Tiller. He says, but yes, I agree with Joe on those pointers. Log the laps, take the corners well, manage your speed, take it as best as you can. Yes, Michael, I completely agree with everything you said. As long as Simona, doesn't get in any crashes, log as many laps as she can. I think she'll do really well here at Road America. And it's nice to see Simona Di Silvestre back at IndyCars.
Yeah, it's nice to see Simona back in Indy cars. And Adam, I actually wouldn't go as high to say Simona should get a top 20 this weekend at Road America. I'm not even gonna give her a place where I think she should finish. As you guys have been said, I think just logging the laps, get into experience since it's been a while since she's raced an IndyCar on the road course. It's been since 2015, so it's certainly been a while. And got another comment here from Michael Tiller saying you only just joined, but after seeing the question in the chat room DNS for tomorrow's F1 race, you say you hope I'm wrong, but you're thinking that 3 DNFs are possible for some reason. Thank you, Michael, for sharing your comments. I always appreciate you watching our Grid Network programs and getting back to Simona D. Silvestro herself. I think it's going to be super important for her to, as you guys have been saying, to just get out there, don't put a wheel wrong, and at the end of the race weekend, you want to be like, this is where I started and this is where I finished, and you want to see the improvement because she only has limited starts this year. As I mentioned, this is her first scheduled race, and then when she's moving on to the Meadowhouse Sports Car Course, and then the street circuit in the Music City in Tennessee, Nashville. So yeah. So Simona's only gonna have some limited opportunities to go out there and perform this year, and it's really hard to do what she's doing right now, to just come in the middle of the IndyCar season and be able to run in the IndyCar series, because it's extremely competitive, and she's really at a super unfair disadvantage right now, since all these drivers have been in this car for already a long time this season. She's just coming in. I've seen some comments from Simona in the media saying that her neck is very, very sore. It was sore after that yesterday practice session because of the G forces, the downforce in those Indy cars, and in the fast turning and the power. It takes a lot on a driver's body. So I think for Simona this weekend, the least we can expect from her is just go out there, don't put a wheel wrong, and show improvement from the start of the weekend to the end, and to show you how difficult it is to just jump in an IndyCar cold turkey without any proper testing at all. Look at current Haas F1 driver Kevin Magnussen. Last year, Felix Rosenqvist was injured from that big stunt at Belle Isle. So Kevin Magnussen, the current Haas F1 driver, made his IndyCar debut at Road America last year. And Kevin was towards the bottom of the speed charts. He was able to cycle through and lead some of the race before a mechanical failure put him out of the race. But Kevin Magnussen, despite all of his experience in Formula One, Kevin really struggled to really find the sweet spot in the pace in the IndyCar at Road America. So if a driver who's been in Formula One has a lot of trouble coming in without any proper testing to get in an IndyCar, can struggle at Road America, I imagine what it can do for others. So I think the best thing Simona can do is just focus on improving from the start to the end of the racing weekend at Road America.
And now it's time for everybody's favorite game here at Grid Network, Pick a Winner. And you see our leaderboard to the left side of me. So with that being, and use the hashtag Pick a Winner on social media, and you can see yourself here on our top 10. With that all being said, it's time that we all make our picks. First up, Formula One is in the country of Azerbaijan at the Baku City Circuit. All right, Joe, who wins tomorrow morning in Azerbaijan?
Before I go with my pick, comment in the chat room. This woman driver, I wish her well in the race. Also, like being careful with the G-force. It is massive with her neck. The neck, of course, the braking. All the drivers talk about, especially for Simona to not have the seat time. Definitely something where hopefully it just completes the race, and then goes out there and continues on with the rest of the season, gain that experience. For Baku, it's going to take experience. It's crazy to say Perez is in the best opportunity to get the win, but I just feel we saw last year Max Verstappen. He was hard to beat. I anticipate, just from past performances, Charles Leclerc is going to have that better start. That's going to allow Verstappen to get in second place. And then if Verstappen could stay within the DRS range, get around Leclerc, then try to get out of DRS range. And I think Verstappen is going to control this race. Verstappen is my pick for Azerbaijan.
And for me, I'm gonna go with the other Red Bull driver. I think it's gonna be two in a row in the second consecutive year in Baku, Azerbaijan. I think Sergio Perez is gonna find a way to get it done. I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to have a better start than Charles Leclerc and clear him heading down into turn one or side by side. But I think some way somehow Sergio Perez is gonna win this race, and we have to start taking him seriously as a championship contender, despite Max having number one status with the team at Red Bull.
Kobe, I think you and I are on the same wavelength because I'm also going with Checo Perez to win here at Azerbaijan. I mean, he won here last year. He's coming off a win in Monaco on another street circuit. So I think Checo Perez makes it 2 years in a row here at Azerbaijan. Next up, NASCAR goes road course racing this weekend as well in the beautiful wine country of Sonoma, California. It's Kyle Larson's home track out there at Sears Point, and we all know Hendrick Motorsports is really good on these road courses. So, Joe, does the Hendrick Motorsports driver take the win tomorrow afternoon at Sonoma?
No, it's not going to be a Hendrick Motorsports driver. I'm looking at the Toyotas. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. I both see them as potential. At the end, I'm going to not go with either one of them. I'm going to go with the one driver who has not won at Sonoma yet in the Cup Series, but he has won on almost every other track, especially the tracks that have been around a long time. Sonoma has been around a long time. I'm going with Denny Hamlin, the number 11, getting it done at Sonoma.
Yeah, I'm sure Denny Hamlin hopes to be able to get it done this time, because the last time I remember Denny Hamlin being in contention to win at Sonoma, it was Tony Stewart's final trip out there when Denny roughed up Tony, and Tony got him back, put him in the wall. That was quite a memorable last win for Tony Stewart at Sonoma Raceway's final career NASCAR Cup Series victory. But for me, I'm gonna go with another Joe Gibbs racing driver. I'm gonna go with the driver to number 19 Toyota. I think Martin Truex Jr. is going to get it done. Cole Purden returning to the team for this one-off appearance. I think it's going to be his good luck charm to get back in the winner's circle.
And before uh and before I make my pick, Michael Tiller says, my vote for Azerbaijan, it's a tough choice given the current circumstances of the excitement of the competition. He's also going with Checo Perez to win tomorrow. And in NASCAR, he says Denny Hamlin. Well, last weekend, Joe and Ben were at Portland International Raceway, and driver got it done in the rain. And he's always good on a road course. So I'm going with the Dinger, AJ Allmendinger, to win tomorrow and get the win at Sonoma. Somehow I think he's due for a win in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's really good on the road courses, like I said. So I'm going with AJ Allmendinger. And now we go to the beautiful Road America Circuit in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, where IndyCar drivers probably won't have enough time to scarf down some bratwursts because they'll be concentrating on the race. It's the longest track that the IndyCar Series races on. So, with that all being said, all right, Joe, who wins at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin tomorrow afternoon?
I'm going with the driver. He's looked quick so far this race weekend. I'm going with Pato O'Ward in the McLaren, getting it done at Road America.
Yeah, Pato O'Ward is a good pick. Been fast all weekend, was fastest in the second practice session this morning, but I'm gonna go with the driver who I feel is carrying the most momentum on the track. I think it's gonna be his weekend. 3 years later, Alexander Rossi is returning to IndyCar victory lane.
Am I reading your mind, Kobe, or something like that? Because even though I have to catch you and pick a winner. But I'm also going with Alexander Rossi to win this weekend at Road America. He came so close in Detroit last time out, so I think it's Alexander Rossi's time to win again in IndyCar. And it happens tomorrow at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And Michael Tiller also says he's going with Alexander Rossi. So Joe, you're outnumbered in all this. But with that being said, I'll throw it back over to Joe as he wraps up another edition of the pre-race show this Saturday.
Just because I'm outnumbered doesn't mean it's going to be incorrect. Last weekend, myself and Alex on Twitter, we got 4 race winners correct. So that was a big weekend. Alex, of course, second, trying to go after Kobe, who's Kobe trying to make it 3 in a row. It's going to be really interesting. We encourage everyone to participate and pick a winner all year long. And first time ever, we are live streaming on LinkedIn. So we encourage everyone, visit our LinkedIn page on LinkedIn, Grid Network. There you can follow everything about the Grid Network, including opportunities with the Grid Network. We'll love to hear from you and have you follow us as we expand with live streaming on LinkedIn. And of course, all this really made possible thanks to our Patreon subscribers, Colin, the show, Mark and Rob. Thank you for keeping us on the air. They were a big contributor to Grid Network this past year, coming up on our new fiscal year. So we encourage everyone, this is a great opportunity to sign up, get our annual report, which we send out each and every year to our Patreon subscribers, and buy me a coffee. One of the big things is with Buy Me a Coffee, it's a one-time contribution for everyone. So you could do it once, $5, or you could even do as much more money as you want to contribute. We're always appreciative of everyone's support here at the Grid Network. And of course, another easy way to support us, follow us on TikTok, Instagram. We'll be posting more coverage from Portland Race Weekend. LinkedIn, as I mentioned, Buy Me a Coffee, and of course, Twitter with the Grid Ranking and Grid_History. Earlier this week, we announced the Endurance Performance Index, a very exciting new rating system for endurance car racing. It will be at full speed come 2023. And of course, Public.com, one of our sponsors here, use the referral code GRIDnet, $5 and free stock. Great opportunity to start learning about the stock market, invest in, and hopefully as things start to turn around, put yourself in the right spot, the social media homepage for the stock market, Public.com, once again, that referral code GRIDnet. And of course, unique week, we got Grid Life wrap-up coming up tomorrow following the NASCAR race. Then a Tuesday edition of Grid Encore. Ben will be back. He's, of course, right now in Sonoma working with Brock Beard. And, of course, we encourage everyone to visit Life on the Grid. The episode with Brock Beard is up. Be sure to check that out. And, of course, visit Brock Beard's website. Wednesday, Grid Tonight with Kobe Lameth and Adam Lemeries. Then, Women in Motorsports will be on the air Thursday or potentially Friday. Daniel Zeri is at Le Mans this weekend. We tried to get him on the track, but technical difficulties, so it was Ben and I. But we had a great discussion about Haley Deegan, Bridget Burgess, and the historic 4 women that got the top 4 qualifying positions at Lincoln Speedway in the USAC NOS Energy Drink Nationals. So overall, full week of motorsports programming here in the Grid Network. And of course, we do it all over again next Saturday with Grid Live pre-race. For Adam Lemeries and Cody Lambs from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Samuel. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time. Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, Public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on Public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDNET for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on Public.com.